wabarakatuh. How are you all doing? Inshallah, you all doing well. Welcome to the Flawless Food. So this is my newest series. So I kind of talked about this on Instagram a couple of weeks ago, where I said I've always wanted to do like a cooking video, and whether or not you guys would be interested if I did a kind of like a little cooking show slash video thing, but talked about something business related. And you guys were like, yeah, do it. So this is the first one, and we're going to make this creamy lemon-herb orzo dish that I came up with. So I was actually planning on making risotto for dinner tonight, and I was like, I made this creamy orzo dish a while back, and the mister wasn't here because he was in the field, so I was like, let me make it for him today. He can try and tell me if he likes it, because I loved it and the minion loved it. So just to kind of talk about what we're going to discuss today, this is not business related. This is not, flawless life business related. This is more so about me. And with this series, I'm going to be talking to you guys about various things. Sometimes it'll be about business, sometimes it'll be about your flawless life, sometimes about your faith, sometimes about myself. But for this exact video, I'm kind of talking about something more personal and kind of deep within me, and it's going to be about my life as a military spouse. So first, before I kind of start off with the story, I'm going to show you guys what I'm doing just to kind of walk us through the steps a little bit. So here's some of my ingredients. I have these green chilies, I have yellow onions, I have 2 garlic cloves and a red onion. So I'm going to be chopping this up. And I have all these separated in different bowls based on how I'm going to saute them. Then I have this red plum tomato. It's so tiny. My husband bought this. He says he likes plum tomatoes. I have some mushrooms, a whole lemon, some fresh parsley, halal chicken broth. I have half a cup of whipping cream, and then half a kilo of prawns. And actually, while we're cutting and talking, I'm actually going to start sauteing the prawns so they can get going. So I'm going to turn on using my Cephalon. You guys, I love this set so much. This is my Cephalon hard anodized pans, and they're amazing. So I'm going to saute this with some olive oil to kind of get started. Saute the shrimp with some olive oil. Drizzle this on. I feel like olive oil, you guys. Alright, so while that is kind of heating up a little bit, I'm going to start chopping with the green chilies and kind of talk to you guys about me as a military spouse. So I met my husband in spring, so June of 2012. We met in Oman. I was there doing research, and he was there studying Arabic. And when I met him, I knew he was in the military, so he was there from the Naval Academy. So he was still a student. We're both in college. We're both in our junior years of undergrad. And I wasn't necessarily interested in him. He was just this dude that was at the center. And I'm going to spare you guys all the long story. Eventually, we got married. So eventually, in May of 2015, we got married. And I never envisioned being a military spouse. I mean, no one in my circle, there were no military guys in my circle, or any of my friends were really into the military, any of that. I did ROTC in high school. I did NJROTC in high school. So I was kind of familiar with the military, but most of my friends were married to like business people or doctors or engineers, etc. And when I was getting married to the mister, after we kind of started talking a lot more, I started kind of like looking into just like military spouse stuff. And you guys, there's an entire like world out there. I did not realize how deep and how big like marrying someone in the military was. I also didn't realize it was actually considered like people actually like actively search for that. They're like, tag chasers, which are essentially girls who only marry or date guys in the military for the benefits and for other stuff, which benefits aren't that great, to be honest. But yeah, I didn't realize that like, there were all these groups and all of these like associations, and just, that it was just like this whole other world. It was something completely foreign to me. So it was interesting getting used to that. So we got married. I moved down to North Carolina, Camp Lejeune, which is where my husband was stationed at. And honestly, it was an interesting experience. So Camp Lejeune is located in Jacksonville, North Carolina, which is a pretty small town. I mean, it's pretty much all white, couple of black people and some Hispanics, lots of Japanese people and Vietnamese, I believe, based on like the stores and stuff that were there. Just gonna check this oil, see if the shrimp is ready. I always test it with a piece of onion. And look, and it starts to sizzle, then the oil is ready and the onion is sizzling. So I'm going to add the shrimp in. Like that. Sauteing the shrimp is already seasoned. I seasoned it with garlic powder, seasoned salt, black pepper, and a little bit of cumin. I'm gonna finish chopping these onions. But yes, so I moved down to Camp Lejeune. We lived in a smaller suburb called Sneedsbury, and honestly, for a while I was kind of isolated. So my husband was a second lieutenant when we got married, and a lot of his friends, of course, most second lieutenants are generally pretty young, straight out of college. and most of them weren't married. And this is something that I've kind of noticed since being in the military longer. A lot of the younger officers tend to be single. And even though the Marine Corps, people say they're all these like young wives, the vast majority of them are enlisted. So a lot of my husband's friends that like he closely worked with were other second lieutenants or first lieutenants, and most of them weren't married. So I couldn't meet people through him. I assume that's, we'd have like couple friends and stuff. And I didn't have the opportunity to do that. There weren't that many Muslims. I mean, I didn't know any Muslims down there. I met one at the grocery store, and we kind of clicked, but we didn't stay friends really. So I, when we first got married, the Mr., I'm just gonna say Raymond, that's his name. The Mr. was gearing up for deployment for AMU, and he was leaving a lot to be in the field. So when military members are going for deployment, they have like these workups. So like 6 months to 8 months before they leave, they start this like intense training sessions, which usually means they're away from home quite a lot during this time. And so they're usually away from home quite a lot during this time. And because one of the times he was gone, I had to host an event. So I love hosting, you guys. I really, really love hosting. I've always hosted dinner parties, like I love having people over. That's how I love cooking. So food was always my way to kind of like connect with people. So I joined the Facebook group. Every unit tends to have like a Facebook group for spouses. So I joined the group and I said, hey, would you guys like to come over while the guys are gone? And luckily, people responded. People came over and I met a good group of girls. I met a decent group of girls. Now I'm chopping the garlic. I met a good group of girls, and some of the girls that I met that day, we hung out for quite a few, during my time while I was at Camp Lejeune. But the most important thing I gathered was just like how interesting military spouse life is. And one thing that I feel like I picked up on was just people's personality. So you guys know I'm someone who's about being very organized, very detailed about my life. And I didn't really get that vibe from a lot of people. So it's hard for me to really connect because I'm someone who, for the most part, very, very independent, and a lot of the women that I was meeting were not. And part of it was an age thing. It was interesting because at that time, I mean, yes, I was young, but I didn't feel like I was that young. But I mean, again, I did graduate from high school early, I graduated from college early, so I feel like I've been used to being around people who are a lot older, more mature, and a lot more mature, which is why for me, a lot of these spouses I felt were a bit immature. A lot of them were younger, But I did make some really, really good friends, alhamdulillah. So as we were getting closer to deployment, I wanted to kind of make more friends. I also wanted to work at Camp Lejeune, like in the area. But honestly, it was really hard for me to find jobs just with my profession, as far as like youth community development and with international relations. And I had just gotten my master's in international development. But it was hard for me to find work. But luckily, alhamdulillah, I actually started SFM a few months beforehand. So I was able to kind of grow that. And it was pretty hard. I mean, this is where I'm glad SFM was an online business because there is absolutely no market in Camp Lejeune for modest Muslim clothing, none at all. But yes, I started making more friends, and by the time he deployed, I had gotten a really good group of friends. I joined the family readiness team. So family readiness is pretty much a program to connect spouses or just get the families more involved and pretty much like a life source for the families to the military, to the Marine Corps. So I joined the family readiness team as a family readiness assistant, helping the FRO, which is a family readiness officer. And it's something that I love doing, getting involved planning, meeting people, organizing. So I was all over that. It was literally my thing. It was my forte. I loved it. It allowed me to host more events. And through that, I met a lot of great, great women, to be honest. Ladies that I felt I could reach out to if needed and stuff. And by the time that Mr. deployed, I had a pretty decent circle around me. And actually, after we said goodbye and waved him off on the bus when we went on the MU, we all went out to lunch afterwards, and I met some more women there. And that's the thing I tried to do. I can be very introverted sometimes, but I really wanted to meet new people because I was in this town. I wasn't working outside of the home, so it was gonna be even harder for me to meet people. And I was I'm gonna go to every single event that I can possibly go to, so that I can make some friends. And a lot of events honestly I couldn't go to because a lot of them were very alcohol centered. A lot of the events let's go to this bar, let's go to this club, and as a hijab, as a Muslima, those were things that I just could not do. So I honestly did miss out a lot of that stuff. Another thing, I would be honest, I didn't get invited to a lot of things, and I've told my husband this quite a few times. Again, like I said, a lot of the younger spouses that were in my age group were enlisted spouses. So if you're not familiar, the military has enlisted officers, And when it comes to spouses, there's no rank. Like, I don't have a rank. I'm like equal with every other spouse. But there are a lot of people who do have the idea that like there should be friendizations within spouses. And part of it's also because obviously a lot of your spouse friends come from who your husband brings around you. So a lot of these spouses, like a lot of the enlisted crowd, their husbands bring all these guys home, you know, and their wives over and they meet, where my husband didn't do that. So I didn't have like this circle. And the officer spouses, a lot of them were a lot older and had like kids. I didn't have a kid at that time. So they weren't really like my crowd either. Like they didn't socialize as much and they had lots of going on. So I didn't get invited to a lot of things because of that, just because I didn't know these girls. And there was this, and I know some people who told me like their husband was like, oh, don't hang out with her because her husband, you know, is my, you know, platoon commander or whatever, which is his position at the time. Which I'm not gonna lie, that kind of hurt, to be honest, because I wanted to make friends and I couldn't. So yeah, that definitely kind of hurt a little bit. But luckily I did find a group of girls whose husbands didn't care and I didn't care and they didn't care, and we got really close, and throughout the entire deployment we were like each other's rocks, you know. We would celebrate each other's birthdays together, we would go shopping. Whenever like if they couldn't get a hold of their husband, I would send a message through my husband to them and vice versa. It was really good. Unfortunately though, like once deployment ended, I kind of lost touch with all those girls. And I was really sad because I thought we were really good friends. And then once deployment ended, it kind of like things kind of split. And I'm not really sure the reasons. I know for some ladies, they only want friends during deployment. Once their husbands are back, they just like not interested. Where for me, it's like, I mean, I love my husband and all, but I also like talking to people who aren't him. So that was kind of disappointing. Another thing I kind of got into while he was gone was I joined the Officer Spouses Club. And Officer Spouses Club, I'm going to be a little bit like, I'm going to say bougie. I hate the word bougie, but it's not that good thing to define this. I love like formal things. I love high tea. I love, you know, wearing gloves. I'm waving the sniper around. I just love that like environment. So when I joined the OSC, that's what I was envisioning, like this like old society like crew. And the Officer Spouses Club was looking for a treasurer, and I applied, and the president at the time, Stephanie Williams, was great. She probably shouldn't have said her name, but she was great, and she like took me on, and I met a lot of great women through that as well. And I got really involved. I got really involved with that, and it was just another outlet for me to just express myself and for me to just use a lot of my skills, but also socialize. And I went to quite a few of the events. I helped plan some things, and it was it was also something that I've always wanted to do as far as, you know, just that kind of environment. So that was really exciting. But again, there was like no young people there. So while I had friends, I guess you could say, when we had meetings and events, outside of that, I didn't really talk to anyone. And that was disappointing because again, I wanted to make friends, but I'm be honest, I'm really socially awkward, you guys. So I'm the kind of person who can have a good conversation. In my head, I'll be thinking like I should get her number, but I won't get her number because I've been waiting for her to ask me for my number. So that definitely plays a role. It was my social awkwardness. So even though I felt like I had a good vibe, I was very hesitant to kind of reach out to people and get their numbers and stuff. The interesting thing is that some of my, I guess, closest military spouses, you could say right now, are the ones that I've met on Facebook and have only met in person once or twice. So it's pretty, I mean, it's been good. Like, I do have some people that I can, like, talk to because obviously, like, your non-military spouse friends are great, but there's certain things, like, when you need to vent about deployment or the field or the command, like, only your military spouse friends are going to really understand that. So it is good to have that circle. And there's some people who, like, feel like they don't need military spouse friends at all. But I do like having friends that can relate. And I'm like that with everything, you know, like when it comes to my business, I like having friends who are also business owners so that when I need to talk about certain things, I know that they can, you know, they can relate and that they have experienced what I'm discussing. Same goes with, you know, military spouse life. But overall, being a military spouse has been decent. There's been some hiccups. As far as, you know, since I've been talking about social stuff, I will say one of the, hardest things that I've had to deal with is just like, obviously racism and Islamophobia. And my first ever experience with that, as far as military spouse goes, okay, I've had quite a few, but my first one was when we went on base. So once we got married, we went on base to submit our like marriage license so that I can be enrolled into a system called DARES, so I can have like my health insurance and have my base pass, etc. And the lady at the front was very rude, very microaggressive, and she made some comments about like, welcome to America, and it was like, I've been in America for a very long time, like, I don't understand, like, it was just unnecessary. And then it was being very difficult about me taking my picture with my scarf on, and she said I wasn't going to be allowed to, which I thought that's ridiculous because, one, this is a federal ID, and I can get my passport with my scarf on. I'm pretty sure I can get my base ID with my scarf on, And I mean, active duty soldiers who are female can get their pictures with their scarf on, so it doesn't make any sense. And she like debated with me back and forth, and eventually we just left and came another day and had absolutely no issues whatsoever. So stuff like that, little microaggression comments like that. Another one was once I was on base. I was reading my Kindle. I think I might have been on Facebook actually on my Kindle in a park on base, and I got approached by the military police because someone reported me for being suspicious. Which I've been thinking about that a lot lately. Actually, seeing all of like the rise in white people calling the cops on black people, and yeah, I got the cops called on me because I looked suspicious, which was very disappointing. So I'm only using one chill. I was gonna use two, but I love my husband, so I'm only going to use one to spare him tonight. But remember, I used to. But yeah, so there was that, and then just like for instance, when I joined the officers, there's a Marine Corps officer spouses group on Facebook. And they have like a post your business every first of the month thing. I was like, oh, let me post SFM. Which in hindsight, probably not the best idea just because obviously that the target people, the people in that group were my customer base. But I actually did have a lot, and I still do have a lot of like Christians who want to dress modestly who buy like a lot of SFM products. So I thought, let me share this here. And first comment was, this person looks suspicious, it should be reported, it should be checked out. And it turned into like this huge like thing on the page, like a blow up of like people were just saying like, oh, no one here wears that stuff and we should be suspicious of what's going on in the world. And luckily a few people did step in and back me up, and some of those people are actually my friends today. Like just that altercation of stepping in and defending me and saying, you're being Islamophobic, like this is literally just a page of someone's website selling clothes, just like everyone else is posting their stuff on the first of the month. And clearly, if you go to her page, you see she's affiliated with the military as a spouse, and she got into this group, so obviously she's affiliated. So it's like, and honestly, that moment kind of made me not want to interact with anyone. Even though it was online, I felt like this is what I'm getting online. Like, what am I going to get in person when I try to go to an event? This was before I kind of went to any events, I believe. I don't think I hadn't even gone to like any events really when this had happened. So that really sucked. And then a lot of those kind of instances like that, during deployment, there was a situation with a few spouses who were pretty much telling people just nonsense about me, and like how they told their husbands not to like talk to my husband, or because we're Muslim, because my husband's obviously he's Muslim, but he's white, and he's not, you can't really tell he's Muslim. It's not as obvious as me because I cover, so they didn't know he was Muslim really before then. And so that was disappointing, and know that people were talking bad behind me and saying that they didn't want their husbands under my husband's command and stuff. So that was unfortunate, but stuff like that happens. And I've actually spoken to a couple of other military spouses who are Muslim, and only 2 of them are visibly Muslim, and they've said that they've dealt with stuff. Their husbands have received comments, people kind of disassociate from them. And the other ones that I know, one of them does cover, but she was prior military, so she kind of has that credit, and I love her. She's like, yeah, she's my fave fellow Muslim military spouse. And another one that I'm close to doesn't cover, so she can kind of go under the radar. And her husband's not Muslim, so it's a lot easier for them to like really go under the radar. But there's a lot of stuff like that, like when I tried to join my neighborhood Facebook page, we bought a house and our neighbors were pretty much all military. Tried to join the page and I got blocked for being suspicious, which to me was ridiculous because I actually went to the person's house who ran the page like a couple of weeks prior for a neighborhood event. And I had my husband join the page and he got accepted right away. After I got blocked, and I had him message her and say, hey, you blocked my wife, and she said, I don't know what you're talking about. And after that, him messaging her, I was all of a sudden unblocked. So honestly, just stuff like that, and I still kind of deal with little things like that. I have to check how I say things or what I say because I don't want to come across as the angry black Muslima, and that's, I've kind of gotten that reaction. And it sucks. It really does, because at one point I'm used to it. Like I always say this, I am a black Muslim immigrant in the U.S. Like I've dealt with enough ignorance my entire life, so I'm not that surprised. But it is very disappointing, just because these are all grown women, and also because like this involves my husband's job, so I can't necessarily set them straight how I would like to sometimes. But I have been trying to do more teaching to people and educating them on their ignorance. Some don't like that though. I got blocked a lot during this last election, which is another thing. It was really disheartening during this last election, seeing the people that have been in my home, who I thought were friends, posting very like inflammatory things about Muslims and immigrants, which are 2 groups I obviously identify with. And it's really unsettling, to be honest. It makes me feel like, 1, I don't trust you, and 2, some of these ladies, like my husband works under their husband's command. So I also thought like, I mean, is he safe? Like, no, it's legit concerns, unfortunately. But those are the things that, you know, I kind of dealt with, and also kind of makes me hesitant with interacting with other military spouses, because I never know how they're going to perceive me, and it's kind of affected how I relate to people, because yeah, I don't want to be friends with you and then to find that you're talking nonsense about, you know, Muslims. I don't want to feel like I have to like hide myself, or, you know, but I'll be honest and say, for all of the bad ones, there are also great ones. There are some amazing ones who, whenever someone said something negatively, either on a post or in person, have defended me. The ones who've told me like, hey, so and so said this, you know, like, and I told them XYZ back. Like, I completely appreciated that. I never asked anyone to defend me, but I totally appreciate. That's what honestly, that's what should happen with anytime you hear someone say anything racist or bigoted. You should say, hey, that's not what you should be saying. That's completely wrong and is not okay. And it's disappointing because, you know, the Marine Corps is supposed to have all these values, and these spouses should have some of that too. And unfortunately, that's not the case. So I'm wrapping up chopping parsley here. We're almost done, and I'm going to cut the lemon, and then we'll kind of get started with the actual cooking. The shrimp's already done being sauteed, so I'm going to get started with other things. So I kind of talk about struggles of being a military spouse. The social aspect is definitely one, I'll be honest, and alhamdulillah, like, running my businesses is kind of distracting me from that. I've been so focused on my businesses, and now having the minion, I'm able to kind of ignore some of that stuff and not be so focused on socializing. And also because we are in Abu Dhabi, we're not with the fleets, we're not like on a regular base. I don't really get to meet people and interact as much, and that's been very helpful. And I've told my husband a few times, like, I'm dreading going back to the fleet. I don't want to go back to the fleet. I want to because I love the family readiness stuff and the OSC and being involved in that community, but I hate the like negativity and feeling like people aren't really true and aren't really my friends, and people are going to be, you know, saying negative things, so that's disappointing. But overall, the biggest struggles, honestly, is the deployments in the field. We've only had one deployment, alhamdulillah. I know some people who've had way more in the same amount of time we've been married. But we've had one deployment, but we've had lots of field activities. So he's an infantry officer, and they were gone a lot, like a lot. And, you know, honestly, I deal with this. So prior to Laith, you know, having my son, when he was gone, I would use that time to kind of just do a lot of things for myself. I would honestly like be completely in my business during that time. I would, you know, read a lot more. I would have to eat all the spicy food that I want. I always joke that whenever he's gone, that's my time to just put like habaneros and ghost pepper chilies and everything, because he's not here to complain. So yeah, when he's gone, I just take advantage of that. I can watch all the trash reality shows that I want, because I love my, you know, Real Housewives and Lemon-Herb and all that stuff. So I can watch all of that. I can stay up all night talking to my friend on the phone, because I don't have to like try to go to bed when he goes to bed, something that I think to be important. So when he's gone, like the first couple of days, I'm like, oh, my husband's gone, I'm kind of sad. But then I get into my own routine, and I think that's important. It's, you know, and I think a lot of military spouses should do that. Once you get into your own routine while they're gone, like, you still miss them, but it's not like as, you know, dire. It's like, oh my God, I need him home right now. You don't feel it as much because you're so, you know, involved and so focused on what you're doing. So that's my big thing when it comes to, you know, making sure, like, not, you know, getting so antsy when he's gone. But aside from that, that's probably the biggest struggle. And then, you know, PCS. We did our first PCS from North Carolina to Abu Dhabi last year. We've been here for just a year and a month now. And you guys, that was so intense. Like, alhamdulillah, everything went well. But the leaving part, there was just so many things that kind of sort of went wrong. You know, we had, like, our movers were horrible. And mind you, I had just had Lathe, and the mister had left for training. So yeah, could you imagine, like, I have a new baby trying to move my entire house, some in storage, some to Abu Dhabi. So that was like crazy intense. And then fortunately my husband's grandfather died on his mother's side a couple of days before we were supposed to leave. So we had to kind of like change things and alternate things really quickly. But alhamdulillah, we made it here, and we're super, super happy with being here now. So I finished chopping everything up, and now we're gonna move to the stove and start cooking. Yay. Alright, so right now we're sauteing some onions, and as the onions are sauteing, kind of caramelized. I have the garlic, red onions, and yellow onions in here. So we're going to continue our conversation. So I've spoken with you about, you know, how I became a military spouse, some of the things that I've dealt with, what I think are like hard, and the struggles of deployment, as well as the social stuff. And for the most part, overall, I enjoy being a military spouse. I'm going to add a bit more olive oil in here. I enjoy being a military spouse. I really do. I will say one thing that I like to see changed is this not like other girl mentality. And that pretty much means, like, when other women put other people down to make themselves better, like, oh, I'm not like those girls. I'm not like those other military spouses. I'm a cool military spouse. And The reason why, so within military spouses, there's this stereotype of a dependent. And a dependent is essentially someone who rides her husband's coattails. I just added some mushrooms in here. It's going to saute that too. My husband loves lots of mushrooms. I put a lot in there. I like a little bit, but he likes lots. I kind of kicked it on today. But, you know, someone who rides husband's coattails, sits at home, doesn't work, doesn't really do anything, just, you know, claims her husband's rank, and it's considered a negative stereotype in the military. And a lot of spouses want to be the anti-dependent. They don't want to be dependent, which I understand that. I don't think it's a stereotype. But I don't think I can put other people down and make myself feel better. You know, or even just like, there's this thing of like, dependents, you know, they know a lot about their husband's job, and that's their entire life. So our military spouses who have this NLOG, you know, mentality, it's, you know, my husband's life is different than my life. I'm not all about him. I focus on myself. I have my own thing going on, which is great. You should. I have my own thing going on. However, I don't think knowing about my husband and being involved in his life means that I don't have my own thing going on. So I'm going to add the tomatoes and chili in now. So you'll see sometimes in groups where girls will say, I don't know what my husband does for work because, you know, I have my own thing going on. And that to me is crazy. I could not imagine not knowing what my husband does for work. You know, even outside the military, I'm not in the military, obviously. If someone was to ask the mister, hey, what does your wife do? He can't say, you know, she owns her own clothing business and she teaches, you know, women how to build a flawless business. I will be offended. I talk so much about my business and about my job to him that if he doesn't know what I do, I would be seriously offended. So the fact that, you know, there are so many women who see this as like a positive trait, like, hey, I don't know what my husband does because I have my own thing going on. Like, to me, that's just crazy. Like, that's just not a good, I don't understand the idea. I mean, I get the idea behind it, but I don't understand how they can think that's okay. So I wish I could see this change, this desire to be like, oh, I'm not like those spouses. I'm, you know, or even, you know, people who look down on spouses who are involved. Like, I was very involved in the foreign, in the family readiness assistance program, as well as the OSC. And some spouses who are like, oh, I want nothing to do with the military. That's my husband's thing. And I always say, like, a lot of times I hear people say that. I always wonder if they ever worked in the civilian world, because in the civilian world, you know, a lot of times companies have you know, communities. Like my old job, the job that I had years ago before I got married, a lot of the events spouses would come to when we have like community gatherings or birthdays or whatever. Spouses came more like a little family. So it's not just a military thing where, you know, they expect families to be involved or want families involved. So it's crazy to me that these people think that like this is like this awesome, you know, great trait. All right, so now we're going to add a stick of butter. You can tell I like my butter. This is all butter, not margarine. I would not use margarine. I don't cook with margarine. Just don't. Get this butter melted, and while it's melting, I'm going to add 2 cups of orzo. This is my first video, and honestly, I'm loving chatting with you guys so much. I'm kind of forgetting the cooking, but it's all good. So this is a 1/4 cup. So I'm going to put 8 of these in because I want 2 cups of orzo. This is going to be enough for dinner for both the Mr. and I tonight, as well as for lunch for late tomorrow, and also my lunch. I lost count, and that was 4 cups. All right, that was 4 1/4 cups, so that was a cup. Now it's a cup and a 1/4, cup and a half. All right, and that and a half, and then, all right. So I'm gonna saute the orzo, get that kind of, you know, sauteed and brown a little bit. Stir that up. Move this out of the way. And stir this some more, let it brown a bit. But so overall, being a military spouse has been great. There have definitely been, you know, ups and downs I haven't been the greatest fan of. And there are definitely times, like I said, where I told my husband I don't want to go back to the fleet because I don't want to deal with some of the negativity. But the good definitely outweighs the bad. You know, my husband loves his job for the most part, so that makes me happy. I want him to be happy in his job. I love the ability to, like, I mean, we're in Abu Dhabi. We wouldn't be here without the Marine Corps, so that's been great. And then just being able to meet different people, to be honest, like people that I might not have met without the Marine Corps. I loved having that you know, accessibility has been really great. All right, so I'm just kind of see the orzo, and it's all sauteed. All right, so now I'm going to add the cream. So that's 1/2 cup of whipping cream, heavy whipping cream, and stir that. And then I'm going to stir in all the shrimp that I sauteed earlier. And this is when the dish starts to get really, really good, because I'm going to squeeze half a lemon. And this what I feel like was the highlight of this dish when I made it was, yeah, just that lemony flavor was just so good. And I'm going to wrap up the stove a little bit. I'm also going to now fold in the parsley. That's a lot of parsley. It's a lot of parsley. Stir this up. This looks kind of, it's something like this. It's just a very messy dish. But y'all, when you taste it, you'll forget about the mess. I am now going to add another lemon wedge, just straight in. And another, because again, I want this to be very lemony. And then I'm going to put in 2 cups of chicken broth. Actually, I'm going to put just a cup and a half, and let this saute some more. And also I rinsed the lemon slices so they're all clean. I just throw in dirty lemon slices in there. I'm going to put in the rest of the chicken broth and get everything out. And then I'm going to cover and let this simmer for about 15 minutes. Actually more like 8 minutes. Also I made this with chicken, but this is with shrimp and orzo. I'm going to wait about 8 minutes to let it saute. Cover this and let's wait. Alright guys, time is done. Let's see how this turned out. And it looks delicious, completely cooked. Everything looks soft. I'm going to taste it because I have to see if it's good. Let's see how this tastes. It's hot. It's really hot. Tastes good. Perfect balance of lemon and herbs and completely soft. I'm super excited to try this. But thank you guys for tuning into the first episode of The Flawless Food. Hopefully this will not be the last. If you have any questions or comments, leave them in the comment section. You can also follow me on Instagram at lady_meansy. And thank you for watching. Hopefully we'll have many more videos.